chapter 14. I got the recording running. Put my prayer book up, and we will get started. Let me get the right glasses on so I can actually see what I'm doing. First of all, do we have any questions left over from last week, or if you've seen something new or um, heard something? Any questions before we get started? All right, we're right in the middle of Revelation, and everything is really starting to heat up now. Um, we started out, remember, with John's vision, and we saw John look up into the heavens, and we saw actually the gates of heaven open up, and John is now, whether he's there physically or whether he's just in a vision, it's hard to say, but either way, he's seeing something that is real, and he's recording it for us. So John is looking at the heavenly council, and that's where he's been for the past few chapters until we came over to chapter 12, and that's where John now his vision is starting to train back to earth, and it's following Satan's, shall we say, exit from the heavenly council. Satan was sort of escorted out of the heavenly council, and that was one of the things that we looked at is the where Satan has been throughout history. We kind of got an idea of that, starting looking back to Genesis real quick and then coming forward. And at this point, Satan has been dismissed from the heavenly council. So it seems like at this point he is stuck here on earth now, and he has to do his wandering here and can't return to the heavenly council. As he's coming down to earth, now we see the emergence of two beasts come out. In chapter 13, the first beast came from the sea, and then the second beast from the land. And these beasts that come from the sea and from the land both are symbolic. We'll say symbolic of chaos. They represent chaos, the chaos that Satan is. That's his tool. That's his tool that he uses, is chaos. So we have a sea beast, which is which we're calling the Antichrist, the opposite of the Messiah of Christ, and then this land beast, which appears to have the ability to do miraculous signs and wonders, and is pointing people to the sea beast, the first beast that came out of the sea, and people are starting to be seduced by the wonders and amazement that these two can do. And we reminded ourselves that this is Satan's attempt to be like God, with Satan himself representing God the Father, the powerful power giver, the ruler, and then Satan gives his power to the first beast, the beast of the sea, which is the Antichrist, and then the second beast representing a false prophet, John the Baptist, that's pointing people towards the sea beast. So now we've got this dynamic here where we've got a dark trinity that Satan is trying to mimic God with. And we looked at that second beast, and this is one of one of the things that we finished up with, and the last part. I want to read a couple of those last verses because I really want us to think about this, especially trying to figure out who this false prophet is, which seems to be a very it was a it was a very popular parlor game when I was growing up as to what the 666 means. So I'm going to start in chapter 13 on verse 16, the last, just a few last ones. Well, I'm going to back up to 15. And it, the land beast, this is um, Rahab or Behemoth. We referred to him from the Old Testament. We see these two beasts in the 40th and 41st chapter of Job, as Leviathan being the sea beast, and Behemoth, as it's referred to in Job, as the land beast. The land beast is also referred to as Ahab, Rahab, in the Old Testament also. So this is Rahab, the land beast. And it, Rahab, was allowed to give breath to the image of the beast, so that the image of the beast might even speak, and might even cause those who would not worship the image to be slain. And it also causes both small and great, both rich and poor, both free and slave, to be marked on the right hand of the forehead, so that no one could buy or sell unless it has the mark, that is, the name of the beast, or the number of its name. This calls for wisdom. Let one who has understanding calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and its number is 666. I'm sure most of you have heard all sorts of guesses and postulations to what this 666 means. Nero has come up, Hitler, they were calling Obama, some way you manipulate Obama's name to be 666. So, I have heard all sorts of guesses at this, but as I'm trying to take a more literal view of Revelation, to read it as if I was reading it the first time, I started to think about taking the name, and it says, he has been marked on the right hand or on the forehead, so that no one could buy or sell. And we talked about last week, right at the end, how the commandment for us is to not take the Lord's name in vain. And that's how all of us pretty much grew up with it. But if you look at the true construction of the Hebrew there, to take the Lord's name in vain, that's not the only way to translate that. And I think it carries a little more weight if you look at it as bearing the Lord's name, because that has, and we have actually talked about that in this class, that to bear the name is basically to remember that you're carrying the image of God. You are an image of God, and you are actually carrying not only his name but his image as a son or daughter of God. And I think that is a more, shall we say, appropriate way to approach this, since we see very clearly here Satan trying to mimic God. It made sense to me as I read this that one of the things that he would want to mimic about God is how God's people take his name. God's people bear his name. They take his name. And in fact, when you look at Deuteronomy, one of the um, one of the laws in Deuteronomy is to bear God's name on your forehead and your hand. And I hadn't put two and two together until a couple of weeks ago, and all of a sudden, oh, wait. One of God's commands to his people was to bear his name on their forehead and on their hand. And here's Satan doing the same thing. Now I'm gonna make an attempt here. And of course, with the Orthodox Jews, they're gonna take that literally. So I'm gonna try and switch screens here. Yeah, if you can see this is a young Jew here, an Orthodox Jew, probably a member of the Israeli Defense Force because of his military pants here. But this is a typical Orthodox Jew who is bearing the name of God on his forehead. You see this little box he's got tied to his head. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit. Yeah. See this little box here that's tied to his head. Here's the leather straps here.
I just see you.
Oh,
Yeah.
you
We
do?
do.
Oh, you can't see this?
No,
Ah.
I can't see anything you're doing.
Oh, well. I thought I might be able to switch
Is
that.
that some of the phylacteries that he's wearing on his head that you were talking about?
Yeah.
Hmm?
If you
What?
look up Orthodox Jew praying, you will see a picture of the an Orthodox Jew, and they will be praying, and they have a little black box.
Yep.
It's about
I
it's
forgot
a
what it's called.
it's
About a phylactery.
yeah, it's about that big, and they wear it. They tie it with leather straps to their
Right.
forehead, so they end up right about here. And then they
Mhm.
also have a very long leather set of straps that they wrap around their arm very e- very elegantly around their arm. It's very precise how they wrap it around, and they
Ah.
have a box that sits under their left arm
Hmm.
also, that has in a parchment on it um, quotes from either Psalms or Deuteronomy. They have that written with God's name on it, and they take it very literally. Wear God's name on your head and on your hand. And I thought, that's the same thing Satan's doing here.
Well, actually, they were kind of commanded in the Old Testament to do that too. They said to
Yes,
bind them on your forehead and on your hands.
yeah,
Mhm.
that's exactly right. That is a commandment in Deuteronomy that says,
Right.
bind my name to your head and your hand. And the Jews take it very literally. They bind that to their head and their hand when they pray, the Orthodox.
Were
And
the Orthodox Jews the ones that beat themselves?
no, 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 no. That would
Okay.
be an Orthodox Jew would never do that. No, they do not. Tattoos in Orthodoxy, no.
I
You
know
do,
Shia. I know Shia Islam people do that, and I also know
yeah.
that the Catholics sometimes do that.
Some of the
Oh,
Catholics go over the
yeah.
edge. The Muslims are very famous for thrashing themselves. But to an
Mm.
Orthodox Jew to mark your skin, that is a big no-no. They
Okay.
they do not tattoo. They do not scarify themselves. That is a big, big no-no. Um, so it makes sense to me that Satan's doing the same thing here. Only in our world, we do that because God commanded us to. Satan is forcing his folks to do it. But I don't think it's coming down to what we've heard. Now I don't think this, but I'm still going to watch for it. I've heard that people are going to get tattooed with those pricing codes that are in the store so that they can mark them. Some people think that mark of the beast is when they inject chips into you.
Mm.
Um, some people actually think it is a physical, mark on you. Um, it may be, but I think it's more like what we consider bearing the name of it. It's basically your where does your allegiance lie? So I'm not so much looking for that, although there ain't no way anybody's gonna inject a microchip in me while I'm still alive. But I don't think, yeah, like I said, it could come down to that, but I think it's more Satan mimicking exactly what God's chosen people are doing voluntarily as to follow God's wishes. God told them to do that, so they do it.
Oh no.
So anyway, that's what I think about the mark of the beast. And I'm not really concerned about figuring out the 666 stuff. The As far as I'm concerned, they're saying it's the calculate the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. And I think, and because it's 666, that's just the number of incompleteness. Seven is
There's
the complete number. Six is incomplete.
there's a lady at work that's got that on each of her fingers. Well, on 3 fingers, she's got 666.
Yeah,
Ugh.
and
Can you
that,
imagine that?
yeah. Did you think about that, woman? Yeah, you probably did.
Well,
So,
did she just damn herself?
I don't think so yet. Yet,
Yeah.
yet, I don't think so yet, because we're gonna see we're gonna see the door shut here pretty quick. Pretty
Yeah.
quick in Revelation, we're going to see the door shut. And at that point, what is done is done.
Mm.
But I,
I think, I think also it's Satan trying to mimic physically what God's
yeah,
does spiritually.
right,
What God's doing in heaven, what we'll see in
yes,
chapter 14, He's trying to mimic in real life
yep,
and expecting everybody to adhere to it.
yep,
So, yeah, I think there will be physically written on somebody because that's something that would normally happen spiritually anyway, but
mm-hmm,
He wants it to see physically. These
yeah.
are my people, you know.
And like I say, it could be a physical mark.
It is.
I'm,
Yeah, I think it's something that can be read digitally too. I think, like for example, somebody at home working or something like that, to be able to use the computer program, they've got to have a scanner and
yep.
scan that mark. That's what I'm thinking.
And
That's
it could be. Like I say,
wrong.
it could be. I'm not totally convinced of that,
Yeah.
but I, I, I'm looking for it. I'm looking for it because it is a chance.
Well, I heard that when they changed the buddy over, whatever that is, and then eventually the banks are going to close, and that's when you're going to have to be assigned something on you
Yeah.
to claim
Mm-hmm.
your money and all this and that instead of through a bank. It's on you.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's going to be the big thing, and we run into that here coming up pretty soon. Is
And the bank will close eventually.
Yeah. So that's another thing that we need to be watching for as the end times come. And like I said, I'm not looking for a bunch of tattoo artists to come out and do, but you know something, it would not surprise me if that started. So um, let's all be watchful. Let's all be watchful.
I
So
don't want to interrupt the lesson, but
no,
I
go
want
ahead.
to ask you something at
Yes.
the end. No,
No.
at the end. I don't want to interrupt the
Well,
lesson.
you know how we end. Half the time I'm not even paying attention, and then the camera goes off. You ask it now, Bonnie.
No, I just, I was just flabbergasted when my client told me she didn't worship God, she worshiped Mary. Or she didn't pray to God, she prayed to Mary. And I'm like, what?
That,
Of course, she's Catholic.
yeah, that's
And
a
I just thought that was terrible.
that is a that is a that's probably more a division than most people even think between Catholicism and this is Roman. This is the Roman branch. Um, the Roman Catholics and the Protestants. It's a very big bone uh, between us. The Orthodox are not as um, Mary centric as the Romans, but the Orthodox do revere Jesus's mother, Mary, much more than Protestants do.
Yeah,
And
no, I was surprised.
yeah, and a lot of people are, especially those growing up down here. You know, I didn't know a Catholic until I was in college. Um, so it, down in the South, in the old South, um, we didn't have Catholics down here, so we didn't run into them. We didn't know what they worshiped, and it wasn't until I got into college that I started meeting Catholics and understanding. I never really understood it in college because I never really had any Catholic friends. Um, so it is a huge division between the church on the position um, of Mary. It is a very big thing, um, and I'm trying to understand it better.
Yeah, yeah, I was flabbergasted.
Yeah, it is something that we just find unbelievable, especially those of us like me and you, Bonnie, who just we didn't know. You got further along than I did before you found out about some of the beliefs. Um, who's right and who's wrong? I don't know. I know what I was taught, but then I was taught a lot of things that turned out to be wrong. So I'm not gonna weigh in one way or the other. It seems strange to me.
Well, I've taken care of a lot of different Catholics. And I even had one that said she prayed for Mother something sucker. I'm like, what? Who is that?
Yeah.
But each one of them seemed to have their own views.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Um, we
Oh,
we
plum sucker. That's what it was.
we
First Timothy, First
Plum
Timothy
sucker.
chapter 2 verse 5. I mean that pretty much solves the issue.
What was that?
What verse?
First Timothy chapter 2 and 5.
Let me write that down.
do you have that where you
Yeah.
can read it?
Yeah, for
Yeah.
there is one God and one mediator between God and men, the man
Jesus.
Christ Jesus.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I thought.
My battery's gonna give out, so if I
Yeah.
can't, thank you for having me today.
Okay.
Bye, Duck.
Bye.
Um, that is a. We think we've got a lot of different Protestant denominations, and we do. We've got way more than there needs to be. But the Catholic Church is also fragmented. Um, the Orthodox Church is fragmented. Um, we're we've messed up what Jesus started badly,
Yeah.
and we gotta. Well, He is gonna sort it out. We can't sort it out. We've got things so tied sideways and upside down that I don't think we can sort it out. I tell you who will tell you he will sort it out, and that is that red dragon we read about up there in chapter 12. He will tell you he can sort this out. He will tell you that he will get us on the proper road back to the Father.
Oh, right.
I mean, God says that there is no one else. You know,
Yep.
there is no other man under heaven which man can be man shall be saved, or so. I forgot exactly how it goes.
Yep.
It's under name. Under.
That is what we have to be very careful of, is because the church,
And that's Acts chapter 3,
this is
verse.
the church. The church is so fragmented and so broken, and there are so many deep, deep divisions. That is where Satan will seek to just obliterate the church, and I'm afraid he's going to do a very good job of it.
Yeah, that's Acts chapter 4, verse 12. Neither is there salvation in any other, for there is none other name under heaven given among men whereby we must be saved.
Yeah. We have to remember the basics. We have to remember the basics, and that's why I wanted to go into Revelation and leave all what I've been taught at the door and look
Yeah.
at it from as best as I could from the basics. And that's why I went back into that 666 at the second beast paragraph, because I had always been taught that we'll be able to figure out who this false prophet is because his name is 666, and all we have to do is figure it out, because it says right there, anybody has the understanding can calculate the number of the beast. I don't know.
Well, right now I'm a dummy.
I'm right there with you. I am not going to figure that I can calculate his name, but I do know something. It is the number of a man, and that is what I'm looking for. Is that man that says, "I've got the answer for you," and he is right over here. Look, and that head wound is going to be a big tell. Remember, the beast had a wound on his head that was miraculously healed. And that head, remember, is a leader or a head of state. So that's why people gave Nero the title of the Antichrist. So I'm not going to pretend I know everything, but I'm going to try and look for things that are simple. So, yeah, and Bonnie, when you've got questions like that, you bring them up, because it's important for us to answer those.
Well, I know it's just so hard to get through our lessons, and I don't want to go off track.
We got plenty of time. I got nowhere to be on Thursday night. So you bring those questions up and that goes for every one of you. is if you got stuff like that, we need to sort that out because the times are going to get dark. And I will guarantee you that the silver-tongued devil will be out there saying, you don't want to trust those Catholics. You know, that Mary thing, that's going to be a big problem, isn't it? He's going to be playing us off of each other.
We've got a friend named Ben, and he used to live in Minneapolis, but now he's in West Virginia. Now he used to be Catholic, but he was born again. There are some Catholics out there that believe the way we do. It's just
Not many.
but not many, and he was convicted to leave that church. He sure was, and he went to a Bible believing church like we do, But he was Catholic for a while, but he knew the gospel, and he was a Christian. He was born again Christian. He didn't trust in the Eucharist or anything like that. So, but we still keep in touch.
Yep. Just just bear in mind who the enemy is. Bear in mind who the enemy is. And he is going to use the pieces of the church that are out there. He's going to use them against each other. So we have to know who our trust is in. And Kim just read it to us about 10 times. Our trust is in the Messiah.
Right.
That's who we look to. And his word right here in front of us. Remember, this is the word of God through a messenger, through Jesus to John. This in the New Testament, outside of the words of Jesus in the Gospels, this is an oracle from the Most High God to us. This is as pure as the Torah here. So,
Hey Norm,
yeah,
I got one more verse for Bonnie,
go ahead.
Okay.
and I think it's speaking of also the Catholic Church, and it could be speaking of anybody that's in a pagan religion. Revelation chapter 18, verse 4. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, "Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues."
Yeah.
Chapter 18 is going to be a real circus. Chapter 18 has to do with Babylon, and that's where we're going to go back to Daniel. And I want you guys to keep Daniel in mind this whole time because John is just adding on to what Daniel saw. And that dream statue of Daniel, I think, is critical to understanding the times that we're in, the times that John was in also. So let's yeah, that's a good one, Kim. Chapter 18 is going to be a real eye opener. A real eye
Well,
opener.
18 of Babylon might be like the Middle East or something,
Oh yeah.
but in 14, it seems like it's the United States.
Yeah, we didn't get very far into 14, but we will open it up next week and go into it. So next week I'll just review a little bit and then we will hit 14 hard and get through it, I hope.
Yeah.
So that is a very good discussion, and I want you all to keep keep the words of the text in mind. Try and look at what you've been taught before and measure it against what we're reading in the actual scriptures. And that's what we want our measuring rod, as Ezekiel had, our measuring rod to be is, does this measure what John saw and wrote to us? Does it measure? And if it doesn't, then I'm going to have to leave that behind. So, we're right at the end here. So, gather your questions. If you come up on a question, write it down and bring it to class next week, and we will open with it. Other
God
than
bless
that,
everybody.
everybody have a good weekend, and
God bless you all.
we will
Good night,
see it
everybody.
next Thursday.
Good night. Everybody
Good
stay
night.
safe.
Bye.
Have a great weekend.